We can use trial and error, algorithms, and heuristics to help us solve problems. But sometimes our ways of thinking can get in the way of problem solving and make it more difficult for us to find a solution. Let's go over a couple of the problems that can stand in our way. Functional fixedness is a bias that limits a person to use an object only in the way that it's traditionally used. So look at the picture above. In one study, participants were given the task to attach a candle to a wall. They were given a box of tacks and a candle. Participants struggled to figure out how to attach the candle. They tried to tack it to the wall through the wick, tried melting the candle to the wall, and various other methods. Most did not consider using the box as a tool for attaching the candle to the wall. They experienced functional fixedness and only viewed the box as a container for the tacks. However, if they did overcome functional fixedness, they were able to use the box as a shelf and tack the box to the wall. They could then place the candle in the box, thus attaching it to the wall. Another problem we might run into is fixation. Fixation is when we are unable to view the problem from a fresh perspective. One example of fixation is mental set. This is our tendency to approach a problem with the mindset that what has worked for us previously will work again. So look at this slide. You'll see a series of letters. O, T, T, F. What comes next in the series? The answer is F, S, S. The letters stand for numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now that we've solved that one, try to solve the next one. J, F, M, A. What comes next? Solving the first problem likely made it easier for you to solve the next one. The answer is the order of the months. So January, February, March, April, May, June, and July. Mental sets can help us solve problems, but they can also hinder problem solving. We can get stuck believing that our thinking should work for any problem that seems similar, and we can become frustrated when that doesn't work. Confirmation bias can also lead us to the wrong conclusions. This is when we seek evidence for our ideas more eagerly than we seek evidence against them. We love being right. Think about election time. During this time, people seek information that paints the candidate they support in a positive light and often dismiss any information that paints them in a negative light. People get really intense about this. You'll notice that it's difficult to present people with opposing political views with information that doesn't fit what they believe. They tend to dismiss it, even if there's a ton of evidence to support your case. Heuristics enable us to think quickly, and they often serve us well. Yet, these mental shortcuts can lead us to make some pretty dumb decisions. Imagine someone who is short, slim, and likes to read poetry. Is this person more likely to be an Ivy League university English professor or a truck driver? Many people would guess an English professor because this person better fits our prototype of a professor than a truck driver. Yet you may have failed to consider the base rate number of Ivy League English professors, which is fewer than 400, in comparison to truck drivers, which is around 3.5 million in the US. So, even though this description is more typical of an English professor than a truck driver, the fact that there are more truck drivers out there means that this person is more likely to be a truck driver. This is an example of a representativeness heuristic. When we use the representative heuristic, we judge the likelihood of something by intuitively comparing it to a particular prototype. This can sometimes lead us to ignore other relevant information, like the base rate. Unfortunately, heuristics like this one can lead to social consequences like racism. If people have a prototype or a stereotype of something like delinquent Black teens, they may unconsciously use the representativeness heuristic when judging individuals. The availability heuristic operates when we estimate the commonality of an event based on its mental availability. If these instances come to mind quickly, we presume these events are common. For example, some people may believe that vaccines cause autism because they've heard memorable stories from people who claim their child developed autism after an immunization. Yet, tons of scientific data disproves this link. Because it's easier for us to recall these memorable stories, we may be more likely to believe that this is true. We often overestimate the accuracy of our knowledge and judgments and tend to be more confident than correct. While this bias may occur in low-stakes situations, like our overconfidence that we can make a trick shot or the answer to a question, it also has life and death consequences. Overconfidence feeds extreme political views. It can lead to incorrect diagnosis, and it can contribute to war. Oftentimes, the less we know, the stronger our points of view. When we're overconfident, we tend to be inflexible and close-minded. But if we ask ourselves to explain the details of the subject that we're overconfident in, we may develop more moderate views as we're confronted with our ignorance. It may seem like overconfidence is only a bad thing, but it does have some value. Self-confident people tend to live more happily, and they make tough decisions more easily. While confirmation bias says that we seek out information that confirms our point of view, belief perseverance goes hand in hand with this. This is when we cling to our beliefs in the face of contrary evidence. We tend to welcome information that supports our logic and discounts that which goes against our points of view. How do we counteract this? Well, you have to challenge your beliefs and consider the opposite. When we have an open mind and consider the opposing argument, our bias is reduced.